All right, welcome back to another Hanging Einstein. I'm mowing through the fantasy community. The more I do these, the more this seems to grow in appreciation. So, one, I want to thank everybody watching. Two, I want to thank everybody who's agreeing to come on these. Today, I'm kind of floored personally because I'm joined by Zachariason from NumberFire, FanDuel, Mr. Late Round Quarterback himself. Good morning, JJ.
Good morning, man. Thanks for having me on.
Listen, like I said, I'm blown away. I don't want to. I feel weird sometimes because, like, I feel like people that say like they're like a celebrity hound or whatever, and then I feel like we all are in a certain way. So anybody that has like a little bit of fame or recognition, we all kind of have a little eye towards them. But I don't gawk over people. So it's kind of a weird balance where I don't want to look like I'm like tripping over myself to appreciate people, but at the same time, I think it's some respect is deserved. So, you have a lot of credits to your name. So, I look at it like if I went to a party, my wife said, "Hey, we're going to a party," and JJ's going to be there. I'd be like, "Yeah, let's go." So I just feel like we'd have a lot to talk about. So that's kind of how I mean it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I mean, I just write about fantasy football. Like it's not. Like to me, it's just great. Like the thing that, with my career and kind of what's gone on, that's really cool is just like the ability to have these real conversations with people about something that you love. And fantasy football is something that as nerdy as it is, as stupid as it is, it's something that I love. And having, just having the opportunity to build a career around it has been, it's been a shock to me, if I'm being completely honest, because I never thought it would be possible. It's just really fun talking to people like you, just talking to anyone about, the thing that we both love.
Right. And you know what? I think that's what's great about this thing is that, like, guys like you, I just had Matt Harmon on, who's now at NFL.com. We've had a bunch of big names already. And it's just like there is hope. Like, it's not a dead end path. It is going to take hard work. It is going to take, commitment and dedication. And, you are going to have something worthy of grabbing people's attention. But there is, outlets in this. I mean, you, for instance, you were one of the originators of NumberFire. Am I correct?
Yeah. So, I mean, my story is kind of strange, to be honest. So I just like everyone else, I played a lot of fantasy football, home leagues, that kind of thing, been playing for 15 plus years. I graduated from college. I went to Pitt. I'm from Pittsburgh, went to Pitt, graduated with a degree in marketing. And I've always done graphic web design stuff. And so it was just kind of easy for me to get into the ad agency world, not necessarily designing, but I was a project manager for a little bit. And I moved to Cincinnati with my now wife, after I graduated from school. So lived in Cincinnati, I was working on like Procter & Gamble brands and so on, like Swiffer and that kind of stuff. Wow. And it got to a point where, for me, I just wasn't getting enough fulfillment out of my job, which I think a lot of people feel the same way about what they're doing. So instead of just kind of being frustrated every day with what I was doing and what I knew I was capable of doing, and what I felt I was capable of doing, and trust me, like I've tried so many different stupid stuff when it comes to trying to make things hit, right? Like stupid websites, just dumb, like stupid in hindsight. At the time I was all about them, but I mean, they just didn't pan out. They didn't work out. So one day I was at work and I'm like, you know what? I want to start kind of brain vomiting everything that I know about fantasy football, because at the time, I had been drafting quarterbacks late all the time. And that was a strategy that had won me a lot of fantasy titles. And of course, it's just my home league. It's a little bit different. But at the time, I just started throwing stuff into this Word document. And every day I'd go to work, and then I'd go home, work for a few hours on this book that then became the first ebook that I wrote, which was The Late Round Quarterback. So it was more, for me, it was more about finding, a passion point that I really wanted to focus on. I never necessarily thought it was going to be a career. It was more so, hey, let's see what happens and let's see if I'm any good at this, and then let's just kind of go from there.
That's all. I mean, I'm going to circle back to the career path in a second, but you mentioned you went to Pitt. Now, for anybody who was watching the last episode, I had a Pittsburgh Pirates hat on, who you're actually wearing a shirt today.
Mm-hmm.
And I shouted out Sigmund Bloom in it because he's a big Pitt fan as well. I had to put the Yankee, NY back on the table today, just so people. A lot of people think I'm a Met fan because I'm such a huge Jacob deGrom fan, but no, I'm a Yankee guy through and through. But talking about Pitt, when were you there? I'm 40, by the way. So how old are you?
Yeah, I'm 27. I'll be
wow, okay.
February. I'm a younger guy. So I was at Pitt 2006 to 2010.
Okay.
So I was there during the LaShawn McCoy years, the Dion Lewis years, a little bit Darrelle Revis, and then I was also there during the Pitt basketball years when they were sick with Levance Fields, Sam Young, Dwan Blair.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you remember Barry Rawson?
Yeah.
He was my assistant when I played. I played at St. Francis in New York, so he was actually my third assistant, and then he left us to take on the assistant at Pitt.
Yeah.
And now, he's just blown up. He got a championship ring with Kentucky last year. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's really I think he might. I think was he there when I would have been there? Yeah,
he was, because he actually was with Pitt for a while, and then
he was part of that Elite Eight team. The Pitt Elite Eight team, I think.
He was like the big recruiter behind everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Levance Fields, all the guys that were coming from Brooklyn.
Yeah,
that was Barry. But he left there to take on Manhattan. Here you go, Manhattan head coaching position. And he's kind of bounced around a little, but I think he's now at St. John's with Chris Mullen as his assistant. So
nice. That's
finally getting the Johnnies back on track and getting the program. We're gonna have to knock out the Pitt Panthers.
Yeah.
Back in Big East play. But all right, so now you finish college, you're working all these different places, everything like that. You're a fantasy football aficionado and buff and everything. You start all these crazy websites. You write this late round quarterback diatribe, and that leads now to doing more with the number crunching.
Yeah, so what ended up happening is I published the book, and just like anyone else that's trying to do something in the industry, you hit up random people, try to take every opportunity that you possibly can. So I started lateroundqb.com back in the day. Now it just hosts the podcast that I do, but back in the day it was hosting tons and tons of content. So every day I would work, come home, write an article, write 2 articles, whatever, throw it on the website. And then, if other opportunities came up, then I would take them. So about 6 months after I published the book, it just so happened that was the year. I was very, very fortunate, not only because the strategy works year in and year out, but because that was the year that big rookie class came in with RG3, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson. So it pushed a lot of those higher ranked quarterbacks down a little bit in value, just because naturally you have these younger guys that are performing at QB starter levels. So I was lucky that happened. But then, I slowly got more opportunities to the point where about 6-7 months later, Evan Silva hit me up actually. And he wanted me to do a quarterback series on Roto World. And I think that was kind of the point where I was shocked. I was excited, all of the above. I grew up reading Roto World, looking at Roto World, all that kind of stuff. So I did, 5 or 6 articles, a series on quarterbacks on Roto World, did a little bit of work then for Mike Clay at Pro Football Focus. And then about a little over a year after I published the ebook, then I got a message from someone at NumberFire, the CEO of NumberFire, Nick, who actually 7 years prior graduated from the same high school that I did.
Wow.
So there was kind of a connection there. They needed someone to kind of run the content at NumberFire, and I ended up being a good fit, and this is where I'm at today.
That's awesome. And like you said, getting tapped on the shoulder by Evan Silva is like getting tapped by God almost, right?
Oh yeah. And Silva, the crazy thing is that Silva and I are now really, we're friends, it just kind of, that's the coolest part about the industry, I think, is that you connect with all these people, but you don't just connect with them on a business level. I talk to Silva, and him and I are tight, and he's one of the nicest guys that not only that you can possibly interact with, but one of the nicest people when it comes to helping you out with your career, whether it's, just retweeting an article, or whether it's giving advice about it, or whether it's just pumping you up and letting you know that you're doing a good job. He's a great, great person, and I owe a lot to where I'm at today because of him.
I'm on his peripheral right now, I'm on his radar, but we're not in cahoots yet. He helped me out, and he participated in an MFL 10 I did to kind of promote the launching of this YouTube channel and everything. So I greatly appreciate him helping me out with that. But I wasn't sure if he was going to be in or not, because I would send him emails, I'd send him alerts, and he wouldn't reply. And next thing I know, it's Evan S. is signed into the MFL 10. He's drafting. I was like, okay, I'll take it. Yeah. I'm not gonna ask for more. I'll try to get him on this show too. So maybe he can give a little.
Yeah, I'll message him after this for sure.
Sounds good. So you're in Charlotte now. How do you wind up in Charlotte by way of Pittsburgh, Cincinnati?
Yeah, so born and raised in Pittsburgh, like I said. I mean, I was in Pittsburgh my entire life. And then my now wife, we were dating in college, and we went to the same high school, actually, but we didn't start dating until college. She got a job.
Busy high school.
What's that?
It's a busy high school. Co-workers.
Yeah, I knew, right? Yeah, everything kind of spawned from the high school. So she got a job out in Cincinnati after we graduated college. So I was job hunting and looking there, obviously, naturally, afterwards. And then we moved there, stayed there for about 4 years. It was great. Cincinnati's a good town. It's a lot like Pittsburgh, but I personally, I think Pittsburgh's just like a better version of it, if I'm being honest. But that's partially because I'm from there. But then, we kind of wanted to change. We just wanted to change the scenery in general. And she got a really good opportunity in Charlotte. And at that time, by that point, I was just working from home for NumberFire. So I was able to easily move, pick up shop and just move to Charlotte. And it's nice too, because my family actually all are obviously from Pittsburgh. My mom, dad, brother, sister, they all live in Raleigh now. So we're close to them. So it's nice to be close to the family. The weather's amazing here. It's a really good spot.
How was it today? Because it's now November 6th, and it is unseasonably humid here in New York. Like t-shirt weather still.
Yeah, it's been raining here actually. We like it. It's crazy, man, because I'm so used to like insane rain during the summer. Like not insane, but just like pretty it's fairly constant. And then you come down here and it rains maybe 3 times during the summer, and your grass is brown and it's terrible. But then, now in October and November, it's been raining, but it's still, in like this low 70s, and
right.
It's pretty nice out.
Well, I've only been to Pittsburgh twice, and that was, again, my playing days when we played at Robert Morris. They were in our conference. Don't really like Robert Morris, but they were like the top of the division there. But I hear great things about it. The shoot movies there. It's becoming like an up and coming city. So I'd love to travel and get there. But speaking of Pittsburgh, I actually did get a couple questions for you from some of the people following along on Twitter. This is a friend of both of ours, Sal Stefano, and he I don't know if you saw this or not, but he wants to directly ask you, what's the deal with Sidney Crosby? So I don't know if there's some history here between you and he with the Sid the Kid, but I know, being a Pittsburgh enthusiast, I'm sure you're a big Crosby fan. So
yeah, I'm a huge Pittsburgh sports fan. Watch every Penguin game, every Pirate game. The thing with Crosby right now, I think a lot of it has to do with just meshing with the new assets they have, like Phil Kessel and so on. But I think a lot of it has to do with just general puck luck, because that can happen in hockey, where it just doesn't go your way, it doesn't bounce your way. So I think he'll regress a little bit, but he is on pace to have his worst season of his NHL career, which is kind of disappointing. But the reason Sal brings it up, though, is because Sal's actually also a Penguins fan. So it's more Sal is the kind of person that will never ever have bad blood. Like, he will never talk junk to you, especially in like that passive aggressive kind of way. Like, he's totally just like legit saying like, dude, what's up with our boy? What's up with Sidney Crosby?
No, I know. I had Sal on. I was doing audio podcast last season, and I was trying to get into these interviews then, but I was still so thinking it had to be fantasy related. So the first 5 minutes I would talk casually, and then we'd get into like 20 minutes, half hour of fantasy stuff. But I had Sal on, and he's slated to be on this again. Now that I'm doing just the interviews. But no, he is a I'll sound like my grandfather here. He's a Weisenheimer, as are a lot of people on Twitter. So Sal's a genuinely good man, though.
Nicest guy. I'm not. This isn't even an exaggeration, but he is the nicest human being that you could possibly meet. Not even in real life. Like, I met him in Vegas during FSTA last year, And then I converse with him on Twitter all the time. He is flat out the nicest human being you could possibly ever meet. He's incredible.
Well, I'm really happy that he got back into it, because he tried to get out of things for a little while. Now he's jumping back in. So anybody that's watching this, definitely go follow Sal Stefanel, the 2QB guru. Now, I wanted to ask you, did that hurt to say that this was going to be Sidney Crosby's worst professional career?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough to see. I mean, they have so much talent on that team, and it's just not complete. I mean, they're getting a little bit better, but the start of the season was, it's horrible.
I just want to kind of draw that out of you, because we have I'm a Ranger guy. I grew up a Knicks fan and a Ranger fan, but now I have to be partial to the Nets now that they're in Brooklyn, and now we got the Islanders in Brooklyn, and the Islanders have an up and coming team, especially with Tavares and. I know some of the other guys, they're not coming to the tip of my tongue right now, but maybe we got a little rivalry going here now with Brooklyn having a hockey team.
Yeah, they definitely have a young core there.
So exactly. Now I'm going to ask you. We had two more questions come in, and these are kind of, again, there's a lot of sarcasm and there's good wit on Twitter. Denny, who is your co-host on Live the Stream, is probably, I don't know how this began or the origination of this, but he is probably the most made fun of fantasy football personality on Twitter, in a good way, though. In a good way, and he invokes a lot of it on himself. But somebody wanted to know who will co-host Live the Stream, if and should, and hopefully does, if Denny deletes his account.
Yeah, so we talk about it on basically every episode that I'm going to replace Denny as my co-host because he's terrible, but he's not terrible. It's just he loves to make fun of himself, and that's honestly something that a lot of people should look to, especially in this industry where people care so much about being right.
Right.
And once you realize that. That's not going to happen. And if you can filter out the negativity whenever you do get something wrong, because people will let you hear it. But the reality is that if we were right all the time, we wouldn't be doing this for a living. We would be doing something that's probably a little bit more impactful in the world because we're geniuses.
Right.
I think you can only, exactly. I mean, you can only impact the game so much. Though Denny takes it to the extreme, and it's hilarious, and it's good for what we call his hashtag brand. The thing that's, I do think that there's a lot of realism and a lot of it's very genuine the way that he goes about it, because that's really the way that a lot of other fantasy analysts should go about it, is just making fun of themselves for getting something wrong, because it's just that's the way that it goes. But regarding the question,
his job's not in jeopardy.
What's that?
His job's not in jeopardy.
His job's not in jeopardy, but if I were to replace him, we actually, this past week, we brought on a special guest. We brought on Tom Everett Scott to the show, who, do you remember the movie That Thing You Do? With the band, it was directed by Tom
Hanks, sort of?
Yeah. So he was the drummer in that movie.
Okay.
In the Thing You Do. And so he's done other work and stuff. And over the last year and a half or so, Denny and I have talked to him a lot because he's a big fan of our podcast, Living the Stream. And so we brought him on the show, and what's hilarious is that he was a great. That's the guy who would replace Denny. That's why I'm talking about him. But it's because he's awesome. Tom Everett Scott's the man. But there was one day we're selling these T-shirts for the show for for No Kid Hungry. So we're giving all proceeds to the charity.
Okay.
And, one of the shirts is just it just says Living the Stream. It's just the logo of the podcast. And Tom was wearing it on set one day, and he's working with Emma Stone on a movie, and he took a selfie with Emma Stone while he was wearing the Living the Stream T-shirt.
That's awesome.
When you combine Emma Stone with a bunch of fantasy football nerds, you get the most ridiculous. I mean, people saying "Oh my God, Emma Stone touched the Living the Stream T-shirt!" It was this huge deal. But
that's Hollywood. You just seal Denny's fate right there. I think he's got to go.
It's hilarious. Yeah, it's awesome.
If you got Hollywood, you can't argue with that.
Yeah, no doubt.
But no, Denny's certainly a great guy, and he's got a lot of good stuff going on as well. There's so many good people in this industry. I'm hoping to accomplish getting everybody, because there really is so much more to people than what you get to read in an article or 140 characters in a tweet and things like that. So one more question, and I really don't know the reference to this at all. This is a guy, follower of mine, a friend of mine now. I believe he's from Pittsburgh. He plays in a league that I commission, a baseball league, Steven Nemens. You might know him. I don't know if you know him or not, but he wanted to know who's the #1 pick in Mario Kart, Yoshi or Toad. And I really don't know, if there is a direct reference to you with this. Yeah. So maybe you can explain and elaborate on this one.
Yeah, we just bring it up. We bring up really obscure references on the podcast all the time. And then also like my generation, I'm a 90s kid, right? I was born in 88. So a lot of my whole life was I had older siblings. So I was kind of part of that generation. A lot of people from my generation still don't even know Saved by the Bell and stuff, those kind of references. And I'm like, how do you not know Saved by the Bell?
It's embarrassing, right?
Yeah, it's embarrassing, right? So I know all of that stuff and all of those kind of references, but at the same time, I also, I grew up with Nintendo 64 and I played Mario Kart 64 like it was my job. Okay. And so one day, we talk about it on the podcast all the time, and Denny and I go back and forth saying that we would beat each other. But one day on Twitter, I kind of went down thinking about how NFL coaches, given their coaching styles and the way that they scheme, how they would play Mario Kart. Right. So, I just tweeted about that for an hour. It was one of the most fun times I've ever had on Twitter, though, just saying things like how Andy Reid, for instance, would get the invincibility star but never use it.
Okay.
There's that kind of, just like the way they use Travis Kelce and so on.
Okay.
But it's the answer to the question is Toad.
Toad. Okay. Well, I hope that clears things up. But I'm glad that actually made sense, because when I saw that, I was like, is this just some, it didn't make sense to me. Honestly, I don't get a chance to listen to as many podcasts as I would like to, so I missed some of these references. But yeah. I'm glad we were able to get that one solved. So now I want to get back into a little bit of your professional career, and I know we're not going to get into the legal stuff of it, because there's a lot of things in the clouds right now with it, but. NumberFire also was obtained by FanDuel in the last year. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we were bought out in August, which was great. It's a situation where I was the 6th employee that NumberFire, 5th employee maybe that NumberFire had, and we grew, and I was able to kind of take the content and scale it and make it more entertaining, hopefully, for people. And it just slowly got to the point where we wanted to be something even bigger, and a great way was FanDuel coming and approaching us, and then us, being acquired by them. And so now we are all FanDuel employees, but we're all still kind of operating NumberFire as is, and how it has been, just because it's a very good business model. It's a good business in general, and we're doing a really good job with it.
Well, that's awesome. Because to me, before that, backtrack for a second, you guys are also affiliated with ESPN, correct?
Yeah, and we still have a partnership with ESPN. A lot of that is, you might have been watching SportsCenter before and seen us be referenced, because right. We have a really good chief analyst. His name's Keith. He's the one who crunches all of our algorithm, creates the algorithms, crunches the numbers. And then obviously, the writers, and what my job is and what the writer's job is to really do is connect the consumer with this awesome data that we have and right. telling the story. Because there's so many ways that you can look at data and try to understand data, and then our job is to kind of tell that story. But with regards to ESPN, a lot of it is, if Kobe goes down or something like that, or LeBron. If LeBron went down, how does that impact the Cavs' chances of making the playoffs? What is the percent swing? Same thing with Le'Veon Bell. How did that impact the Steelers' percent chances of making the playoffs and their playoff odds? We can send that to ESPN, and then they can feature it on SportsCenter and so on and so forth. Awesome.
Now, you mentioned SportsCenter or First Take. Yeah. They reference you a lot, but also I look at the full analytics games on ESPN, and you guys are one that's always there with your predictions for games. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Every time I see that. All right, so let's shift gears a little. Let's get back to the personal side. What are some of your hobbies that you enjoy doing when you're not writing and number crunching and making fun of Denny and watching Saved by the Bell?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I have a passion for graphic design, web design. Try to still, do some of that, but I get a lot of my creative juices going now with writing, which is great. I never thought that I would be writing, to be honest, just because the other side, the more visual side, has always appealed to me. But yeah, so I still do some stuff with that. I'm a pseudo gamer. I used to be a bigger gamer back in the day, but I think there's probably a strong correlation between people who like fantasy football and are super nerds about fantasy football and people who play video games, just because that's a thing.
Okay.
Do some of that. It's just, what's that?
I didn't mean to cut you off. Are you still a gamer?
I mean, when I can find time. Football season, it's tough. I did get a PS4 though about a month ago, and I'm finally getting into that a little bit. I've been playing a ton of Rocket League. Have you heard of Rocket League before?
No. See, what's crazy to me is like I came up with the whole video game era. Like I had, in television, I had, the original Nintendo, Atari, all that kind of stuff, and I was playing, Genesis all through high school, NHL, everything like that, and it's obviously morphed and evolved into like this. It's basically like you're like right there, It's like you're on the field, which is amazing, especially with the televisions we have now and the technology. But I'm already like past that. Like I'm not, I grew up with it, so it's part of me. I just don't. I can't find the time to do any of this stuff anymore.
So hard.
And well, the other thing is it's addicting. Like once you start playing, and then the turnoffs for me are, I don't have the time to commit to this, but other people do. Mm-hmm. So like both of my sons are in high school now, and like I'll try to play like Call of Duty with my oldest son.
Right.
Games start going, you're dead, and I'm like, I didn't even do anything. Like I didn't even take 2 steps. He's laughing at me. You try to play somebody else online, and it's just you. Sorry, I was just checking something. It just gave me an alert. That whole space saving thing I was telling you about. Yeah, so it's just kind of hard, but I do appreciate it, and I do enjoy people that that talk about it, because it keeps me feeling like I know what's happening. But
yeah. I mean, like I'm by no means anymore. Like, I mean, that's just kind of a thing that I just kind of do to unwind and hang out. I watch, my wife and I are big into TV and just hanging out after a long day of work and just kind of hanging out, watching some Netflix.
What does your wife do?
She is an industrial engineer, so she's definitely the smarter of the two. She's smartest. I mean, she's easily the smartest human being I've ever met in my life. And she's been so supportive with everything. I mean, it takes someone special to understand, a passion that you have. And then me coming home every day from work back when I was working at the ad agencies and working on this ebook, where I guarantee you in the back of her head, she's like, why is this happening? Like, why?
We're back to recording. And for those of you who are tuning in back, we had a little glitch, and we had this great little 15-minute conversation that you guys will never hear. And JJ revealed some of his innermost, deepest, darkest secrets. So it's probably better that you're not going to ever hear that kind of stuff. It might make you a better person, but anyway, let's get off that. So is there anything that somebody should know or you'd like to reveal about yourself that maybe nobody's picked up on from your writing or from your podcast or anything like that? A quirk of yours, or a hobby, or an idiosyncrasy, just something abnormal?
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about the design stuff that I've done. I think that's something that's super important to me. I mean, I think in general, it's really easy to think that you know someone through 140 characters, or think that that the way that they are. And you see, like, I don't necessarily get heated per se on Twitter when I'm going back and forth with another analyst or something. It's really just a way to, like, if we disagree on someone, to understand where that disagreement is and why, because you need a good process in order to be accurate with your projections and so on. So I think, an outsider might see that as like, oh, I'm attacking this person and we're going back and forth or something. What's really crazy is, outside of fantasy football, probably the least confrontational person on the face of the earth. Like I despise confrontation, to the point where, like, if I get my food at a restaurant and it's wrong, I'll just eat that food.
Okay.
Like I can't, and that's why my wife is amazing, because she's the confrontational one in the relationship. But when it comes to fantasy and something, I'm it's not even just the passion.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a combination of like the passion and like the, you know, the wanting. It's not necessarily wanting to be correct. It's not that. It's just wanting to get your accurate voice heard. So like, it's not about me being right or wrong about a particular play. It's making sure that my process and the way that I feel about that guy going into a situation or in general, that viewpoint is correctly shown.
Right.
And I think, you know, sometimes that can come across as confrontational, but it's really interesting because like that's not how I am in real life whatsoever.
Yeah, and you know what, and that's another perfect example of you know why hopefully this show is you know going to be beneficial for this industry. What's my my hope is because exactly that, like you get to expand on 140 characters and people can see the other side of you. I don't want to know who your picks are for tonight or this weekend or anything like that because I can read your timeline for that. I can't get this from your timeline. And speaking of Twitter, you are a very good follow on Twitter. You engage with just about everybody, which is it's something everybody should do. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think with the way Twitter's kind of starting to try to shift? And there's talk about expanding beyond 140 characters. They've changed the star to a heart now. Yeah. All those kinds of things. Are you for that movement or against it?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's still a platform that we can voice our opinions and be, have fun conversations. I'm not even kidding. I mean, that Twitter is the reason I have the job today that I do. Twitter is aside from hard work and all that kind of, but Twitter has been the #1 platform for marketing for me. And that's why I care a lot about the way that, the things that I'm saying, not if they're right or wrong, but more that my work is being shown in a way. Like, you do math problems in grade school and they always say, show your work. Right. The end result, okay, I don't care if I got the question right or wrong. I just want to make sure that the part where I'm showing my work is being shown. And so people know the logic behind my picks, because I think if they understand the logic behind my picks, then they're going to understand why I went the direction that I did. If I'm just throwing a guy's name out just because I feel that way, right, that's not really going to do well for me personally or for anyone that's playing fantasy football that's taking my advice. So to me, I mean, as long as Twitter is still there for me to be able to show that work, then I'm all for any change.
Absolutely. I think I'm always amazed when I meet somebody that's like totally into sports, fantasy sports, mountain climbing, things, anything, and they're not into Twitter, and it's mind-boggling because if you're into sports, period, I don't see how you can live without Twitter in this day and age, because it's up to the minute, up to the second information, and you can customize who you follow and all that kind of stuff. It's intimidating when you first get on it,
for sure,
to try to grow your following or who to follow, that kind of stuff. But once you start to get the hang of it, it is very, very useful and beneficial. We've come into the portion of this episode and show where I'm now trying to draw prizes out of my guests for viewers. Scott Fish gave away a entry into next year's Fish Bowl. I have to devise a way for somebody to win that and claim that prize, but that's an awesome one to have. Matt Harmon has agreed to give a viewer a copy of his updated reception perception model as he works on that over the remainder of the season and into the summer. And now we come to you, Mr. Late Round QB. Is there anything that I can coerce out of you for somebody following, whether it's a fan of yours, a fan of mine, or just somebody who happened to take a wrong turn and stumble on this show today?
Yeah, I mean, I can obviously, send copies of the ebook because I have an updated version that's a little bit older. I mean, if you want to do even a Skype session, a 20-minute Skype session that I can just talk about their help them with their fantasy team, I'm all for that too. If you want.
Wow, that's amazing. That kind of goes with the draft day consultants kind of thing. Personal help and tutoring, if you will.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
That's amazing. Now, I just want you to realize, and everybody to realize, these gifts, I'm using them for myself first. So if it is a copy of your ebook, I'm going to read it first, and you might see some of my notes and coffee stains and stuff, but you'll get the copy after that. But I think the Skype session is way more.
I'm totally down.
We got to promote the hell out of this one now. All right, well, anything you want to plug, share, where can people find you? I'm going to have your name and your Twitter handle as an overlay so people can find you there. But anything else, people give people some leads where to go.
Yeah, so obviously Twitter, I'm on there all the time at Late Round QB. I do host the Living the Stream podcast with Denny Carter, where we go through streaming picks at quarterback, tight end, and defense every week, and we get really, I mean, like, it's gotten to the point where like 50% of the show is fantasy football and 50% is just nonsense, but it's fun nonsense. It's a lot of fun. And then obviously NumberFire.com, where I'm the editor-in-chief over there. We're publishing tons and tons of content, tons of really smart content that I'm really proud of and proud of the guys that are writing it. So check out NumberFire.com as well.
Hey, let me ask you one quick question before we wrap this up. Speaking of NumberFire, you mentioned your staff has grown incredibly with the number of guys you have there, which is awesome, and they're all great guys. And it's a great resume builder, things like that. It's not just anybody to get on there. So if somebody was trying to get your eye and get your attention to possibly be considered to be a NumberFire writer, how could they go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to looking at writing samples if you have one, even if you don't have one, even if you've never written on a publication or a website before. I'm totally open to reading your content and seeing what you're all about. So if you want, you can just email me at jj@numberfire.com and just send me a writing sample and be yourself in your writing sample. Make it fantasy football, make it baseball or basketball, whatever, because we do cover every sport, not just fantasy football. And make it unique, show your voice, be different, be someone that you can have that unique voice and really latch onto that and then grow. And I will do my best to grow with you, and we can really, create an awesome product.
Awesome. Well, JJ, I want to thank you for your time today, especially with the glitches we had, and hopefully I make a seamless transition. Greatly appreciate it again. This is JJ Zachariason, the Late Round QB, and all things fantasy. You should definitely be following him on Twitter. One of the best guys in the industry. So thank you again for your time, and see you in the next episode.
I appreciate it.